Our focus is on promoting the opportunities and protecting the rights of people 50 plus. We see ageing as a time of opportunity for personal growth, contribution and self-expression. Our purpose is to advance the rights, interests and futures of Victorians as we age. The Education and Engagement team in particular is focusing on elder abuse, information and support, including about aged care, health and strength training, employment opportunities for Victorians over the age of 50, and addressing issues of ageism. When the Human Rights Commission identified that over a third of Australians aged 55 and over had experienced age-related discrimination in the workplace, COTA Victoria knew we needed to do something that addressed this. Discrimination against older people in the workplace is evident in many ways. Older people being made redundant, not given opportunities for promotion, not being considered for vacant positions, being ignored, being treated with disrespect, and being subjected to jokes about ageing. It's evident when older workers are viewed as useless and perceived to be not able to keep up with technology and changes. The Commission's Willing to Work report outlined the reality of employment discrimination for mature age workers. Unemployed mature workers represent a loss of skills and experience to the labour force, whilst increasing expenditure on unemployment payments and age pensions. People over 50 represent the largest age cohort who are receiving unemployment benefits and also take the longest to find work again after becoming unemployed. It is of huge concern that this older age bracket will be receiving income support payments for a long period of time and experiencing long-term poverty and decreased opportunities as a result. COTA Victoria concluded that we needed to dramatically rethink our approach to the second half of our lives. There is no simple solution to the issue of long-term unemployment for mature workers. Hence, a highly targeted approach that focuses on employment sustainability over the lifespan is important. There are key trends of increased casualisation of the workforce, age-unfriendly workforce trends and job insecurity. This Reach, Train and Employ initiative aims to match the long-term unemployed to areas of labour shortage through training. Victoria's ageing population and the full implementation of the NDIS are driving unprecedented demand for social service practitioners who can provide high-quality services and supports. Unlike some other sectors, the age profile of the social service sector is a good match for the target group of 50 to 64-year-olds. The age profile in healthcare and the age profile in healthcare and social assistance is skewed towards older workers, particularly in disability services, where the average age of workers is 47 years compared to 40 years for all Australian workers. Reach, Train and Employ has supported 37 participants to complete a Certificate 3 in Individual Support, Ageing and Disability with RMIT School of Vocational Design and Social Context. Good Shepherd Australia and New Zealand has provided a life coach to implement an individual support plan with participants and to support them to achieve their goals and address any barriers as they arise. Participants were also offered computer courses through Duke Street Neighbourhood House and one-to-one mentoring through RACV's People and Culture Corporate Volunteering Team. And a special thanks go to Duke Street Neighbourhood House and RACV for your generosity in supporting our students. Despite the limitations caused by the global pandemic, Reach, Train and Employ continued to be delivered, with participants switching from classroom to online learning in a very short period of time. And in doing so, participants showed great resilience and adaptability. Some of our additional supports for participants in the project included career guidance, employment assistance through resume writing, interview techniques, and understanding the employment market, enhancing IT and digital literacy, providing financial counselling, mental health and wellbeing support, and assisting students assisting the students with employment placements. As a result of the support provided, 23 out of the 37 participants have been able to find sustainable employment prior to finishing their course. 2 participants have decided to continue further studies, and another 5 participants have started to volunteer to gain additional experience. Through working with our REACH Train Employ participants, we learned that in order to retain older workers, we need workplaces that are flexible. Some older workers might want to work full-time, but as people age, working part-time can become more attractive due to health concerns, caring responsibilities, or simply wanting a better work-life balance. Older people are willing to work for longer. Our participants were well into their 50s and 60s, with our oldest participant being 75 years old. Older people are willing to continue to work to have a purpose and earn an income, particularly if the work provides them with job satisfaction and matches with their personal values. It is a myth that older people are not willing to learn new skills. Our participants have showcased that they are willing to change careers, engage in education, and learn new skills at any age. Lifelong learning is beneficial for anyone and enables personal and professional development at any age, and enhances employability and the ability to retain work. Some older people might struggle due to a lack of self-confidence. This can be compounded if they've had an experience of age discrimination in the workplace. Older people can greatly benefit from emotional and wellbeing support to enhance their digital literacy, as well as peer support to enhance their self-confidence and enable them to thrive in an educational or work setting. Congratulations, and I wish all of our graduates well in whatever your life takes you post your studies. And I'll now hand back to Venny.
Thank you, Gina. I would now like to welcome Dr. Kay Patterson and Mr. Gerard Mansour, who have kindly offered their time to join us today. The Honorary Dr. Kay Patterson AO is our Age Discrimination Commissioner. Dr. Patterson has taught allied health science for 11 years before going on to study gerontology in America. Afterwards, Dr. Patterson co-developed the first Victorian postgraduate diploma in gerontology and introduced gerontology into the undergraduate behavioral science courses. Following her election to the Senate in 1987, she was appointed as Parliamentary Secretary in 1988. And in 2001, she was appointed to Cabinet and served in the Health and Social Security portfolios. During her time in the Senate, Dr. Patterson has pursued issues affecting older Australians and fought for the removal of the compulsory retirement age of 65 from the Australian Public Service and statutory authorities. Dr. Patterson began her role as Age Discrimination Commissioner in 2016, and in this role, her focus is on the rights of older people, the blight of elder abuse, and the need to encourage innovative solutions to homelessness and the risk of homelessness amongst older Australians. Welcome, Kay. We've also invited Mr. Gerard Mansour today, and as the Commissioner for Senior Victorians, Gerard is widely respected and an outstanding advocate for the needs of older people. He has over 30 years of leadership experience within the aged and community services sectors. Gerard was appointed as the inaugural Commissioner for Senior Victorians in 2013, and in 2019, the Victorian Government announced his reappointment until 2023. As Commissioner, Gerard provides advice to the Government on the needs and interests of senior Victorians, and particularly those who are at risk, vulnerable, or disadvantaged. Welcome, Gerard.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction.
You're very welcome. I'll just see if I can spotlight both of you so we can see everybody. And I'll just see if I can find Kay. Where did you go, Kay? Has anyone seen Kay? There we are. So first of all, I really appreciate you making the time for both of you to attend. And may I ask, you've got a very busy agenda. You get many requests to do these kind of events. What made you decide to take your time to attend this particular graduation ceremony? Why is it important for you to support mature age job seekers to retrain and find work in the disability and aged care sector?
Well, I'll start, Gerard, if that's okay. I think I just want to say congratulations to all the graduates. I'm sorry, I was ready to give a speech. I didn't realise we were going to do questions straight off. So I'm thrilled that so many of you have taken the opportunity to retrain. Thrilled that there's somebody, the range of ages that are amongst you. It's fantastic. I just want to say, people are winning gold medals in the pool and on the water, but you've got your own gold medal, because having a Certificate 3 is really important, and we are going to need more and more people with that sort of training as Australians age, and we need to have aged care in the home. But just say to you, and I've put the number up here in the corner, is it the right way round? No.
Yes, it is.
The right way round. Teams is one way and Zoom's the other. I mean, it does my head in. But it's really, really important for those of you who are going out into the community, and I'm thrilled that some of you got jobs, and I'm thrilled some of you are doing voluntary work, but it's really important, and why I wanted to come on today was because I appreciate the work that COTA does right across Australia, and the tremendous support I've had from COTA in every state and federally. But it's really important for those of you who are out there in the community meeting older people and working with them, that you know if you see anybody being abused, if you notice that somebody's being threatened, or that a relative is insisting that somebody downsizes and moves out of their home, that you learn the signs of elder abuse, and that you ring or give them this number, and it will go to wherever they are ringing from. If they're ringing from Victoria, it'll go to Victoria, because it's absolutely vital. During COVID, we've seen the number of calls to the helplines go up significantly. So you are the eyes and ears of people, and one of the reasons I wanted to come was to make sure that you know that there's help available, and Victoria is doing very well in this area for those people who are threatened, often by their own family members, but sometimes another carer. But congratulations to all of you, and it's great. I wish I could just put a gold medal around your necks. That's what I think is fantastic, that you've gone and done something and got this qualification.
Very much join with that, Kay. How exciting. The sense of importance of lifelong learning has always been a central part of my own career, and I come here on a personal level to congratulate you and share in your joy and achievement, and also on a professional level, that when you look at what happens to us all as we go through our life journey, sometimes we can be tempted to become a little bit conservative as we get older. I don't know whether people in the past saw the ABC program about grumpy old men. I think sometimes there's a temptation that because we get a bit older, that somehow we become a little bit staid in our thinking. And I was just so delighted to see people that are prepared to push themselves out of the comfort zone, try something different and something new, and that will give you, enormously great rewards. One of the passions I have is to continue to travel when we get an opportunity to do that. And I can remember very vividly a few years ago sitting at the Victoria Market having a cup of coffee, and I saw this little slogan on somebody's back on a particular branded t-shirt, and I thought, yeah, that really captures the spirit. And the slogan was "Never Stop Exploring." And I think that's a mandate that you've all demonstrated and shown, that you've got an understanding that as we get older, we can continue to contribute in so many different ways to our community. You're pushing yourselves beyond the boundaries, and that will bring enormous rewards. So enormous congratulations from me to each and every one of you for your willingness to continue to make a contribution, but in a different way than you might have thought otherwise. So well done.
And I'm recording it too.
Terrific, thank you. I just had a question for you, and I've got a number of questions that I'd like to ask you, but I also would like to give other people today the opportunity to ask some questions. So if you've got any questions for Gerard or Kay, can you please write them in the chat box at the bottom of your toolbar where it says chat. It'd be great to see some more questions. Whilst we're seeing if there's other questions to be asked, I'd also have a question around how do we actually encourage and retain all the workers in the workforce from both the staff and an employer's perspective? So how do we make sure that people can continue to work and not, finish working when they're only 50 years old? Gerard, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, the first thing is by showcasing great programs like this. Like when you look at what are the ingredients that have made this work, it's all about partnership, isn't it? So it's bringing together a whole lot of key ingredients. The first is the skills and commitments and passion of individual people who are prepared and willing to learn and see that they've still got an enormous contribution to make. So that's an absolutely core ingredient. And then the training skills, the partnership skills, what Tina was saying, how wonderful that a number of people have contributed voluntarily to the passion to see people grow and develop in their careers. So I think part of it's around being able to replicate the ingredients that made this project work. And I do note that one of the enablers was willingness for government to provide funding. Clearly that's a critical part of what happened. So it'd be fantastic if a project like this could repeat itself. I think the second thing is that some of the biggest change is going to come from the pathways of every one of the graduates. There are times that change occurs because of grassroots success. And what's going to happen, I have absolutely no doubt, that the learnings that each and every one of you have got from the course and from sharing each other's life journeys and from sharing your learnings together, you're going to take that into your workplaces in so many different ways. So yourselves are going to be fantastic advocates for change.
Terrific, thanks, Gerard. Kay, do you want to add something to that?
Yes, if I could just add, and an overall area, which is one of my responsibilities, is to work with, for example, the Australian Human Resources Institute, people who are recruiters, to actually debunk the myths about older people not being flexible. Look at all this group: flexible, changing careers, learning, ongoing learning. It's fantastic, and to debunk those myths that older people can't use computers. I mean, I'm sitting up in my upstairs bedroom, and I've set this all up myself. I've got lights, I can turn them on and off with a sort of thing I bought at Bunnings, and I do quite well, except I've got a bit of a problem because I live near a lot of schools, and as soon as 9 o'clock comes and all the kids get on their internet, it's impossible. When they get home from school, it's even worse. But I think it's really vital that we stand up as older people. I'm 77 in November, and I'm still working full time, a bit limited from an upstairs bedroom, but I'm doing pretty well with IT. And I think it's really important that we as older people say, we've got something to give. It might not necessarily be in paid employment, but you think of all the caring that grandparents do, all the voluntary work that older people do. And I think we should stand up and be old and bold and old, because we've got a lot to give to the community. And those of you who are graduating today have got so much to give, not only in the job you're doing, but in giving other people hope that they can go on and do a Certificate 3, and they can get a job and do something even quite different from what they've been doing before, or get a job. So it's vital that I work with the Australian Human Resources Institute. I'm very sad that the research we did just a couple of months ago and released is that the age at which recruiters see as old has gone from between 60 and 65 down to 50 and 55. I mean, it's about a 10-year drop. We don't understand why that's happened when we've all been working hard to try and promote older workers. I think it might be COVID and somebody have that false view that we can't do IT. I hope it washes out if we ever get through COVID, that washes out. But it's about working with and also promoting companies that employ older people. And the AWEJA, which is the Women's Employment Agency, now being headed by Mary Wooldridge, has now got some new IT didn't have it when I first started 5 years ago today in this job, so it's my anniversary. I keep thinking, where did that 5 years go? But what they're going to be doing is asking companies, all the companies that are on their books, to voluntarily say how they're employing older people, and then we'll be able to go and see what are they doing. Is it talking about retirement? Is it being more flexible? Is it celebrating a multi-general workforce? Is it about pairing people together who are younger and older, because you can job share, often they job share across at the same age, but really it's a better job share with an older person and a younger person, both needing flexibility, but the older person not wanting to have holidays in school time and the younger person wanting to be home with their children. So we're trying to get people to think creatively about how they can meet the needs of people like you who mightn't want to work full time, but could pair with someone who wants to have time in different chunks of time. So it's about thinking outside the square, about celebrating a multi-generational workforce. So it's about setting different attitudes in the workplace. So you're doing it from the ground up, training people. I'm trying to get people to think positively about employing people across all ages. And there's a lot of ageism towards younger people as well as towards older people.
Absolutely. And can I just sort of also highlight that our graduates didn't start their course in this environment. So we actually started the course in March last year. And we started off face-to-face. And then literally 2 weeks into our first few sessions, we had to move online. So we had to really, everyone has had to embrace that change and to move digitally, which has been a tremendous effort from everyone, and everyone's managed perfectly well, which has been really good. Kay, you've mentioned a little bit more around sort of like the myths and the stereotypes and the negative attitudes around older people in the workforce. Can you discuss a little bit more and give a bit more examples around how ageism actually manifests in the workplace, and how does it, what is it?
I think ageism, I talk about it being pervasive and pernicious. It's the last of the isms. You know, we've done sexism, we've done racism, but people, in fact, we've just completing some research we hope to release in the next month or so about intergenerational relationships. And some of the people said, I've never heard the word ageism. And I thought, oh, yeah, that surprised me a bit. But, you know, it's about misconceptions about older people. And I think one of the things that's happened is, and I say to people, I'm nearly 10 years older than my grandmother when she died and 7 years older than my mother. Gerard might remember too. I touched the first person I met who was 90. Because I'd never met anybody. It was when I was 25, and he'd been to the opening of the Harbour Bridge, and I thought, oh, that's a link with history. I mean, it was rare, and people would say, isn't she marvellous? She's 80. You've got to be 95 before people say you're marvellous now. We've got this extended lifespan, and people have to plan for that, and there's a wonderful book called The 100-Year Life that I'd encourage you to get, all of you to look at and to get younger people to read, that we now have to plan for how, most of us, to live into our 80s and 90s. And so person training at 73 and 74 might have another 10 or 12 years of 15 years of work left. And it's really important that we promote the positive aspects of older people rather than the negative that people have. And I think it's when I was teaching health science students, I was very concerned that as we get smaller families, that fewer and fewer young people would either have babies. I used to ask speech therapists, how many of you have held a child under 5 in the last year? And 2 or 3 would put their hands up. Similarly, how many of you have you met, you know, older people? And with movement of families and the mobility of families now, some of them may have had 1 grandparent out of their 4 or 2 alive and only see 1 or none of them. And so they weren't exposed to it, and they're going to be working with children and older people. And I think that's happened with nuclear families, that we have less experience with older people. So it's really important that those of us who are older make sure that young people see people aging positively, and that sets an example for them, but also breaks the myths about older people being frail and dependent, and that makes it challenging. Now, some work at Cornell University showed that if people take on the ageism themselves, it reduces their lifespan by 9 years. I don't know how they got 7.9, but let's say 8 years. And also they have more health issues. So you can actually take on ageism, and that's what we've also got to get people to do, to say, no, let's look at if we're well, and I know that some people are not well enough to do this, but those of us who are well ought to be out there promoting what older people can do. And I think that's important.
That's terrific, Kay. Gerard, did you have any, from your research and the work that you've done, did you have any sort of insights on how ageism manifests in the workplace?
Yeah, thanks, Vinny. And at the same time, I noticed I've just been reading the chat, and I'll sort of bring in Amanda's asked the question about, as mature workers yourself, that's Kay and myself, who have gone through career U-turns, what advice would you give to these graduates about making their way in their new careers? So I can sort of combine the two of those together. Following on from what Kay's saying, I think there's a real temptation as we get older and we think about a role in a workplace, that we allow ourselves in our own thinking to be pigeonholed. That we forget that all of us bring an enormous breadth of life experience. Everybody that's a graduate here has a whole set of life experiences and passions and beliefs, family context, friends and relationships that all build a matrix of you as a person. And so central to that is keeping your self-belief. Yes, some days are going to be hard, some days are going to be challenging. But at the end, what you've got is a whole lot of life experience that ideally positions you to continue to make a contribution. In my recent report that I published in November last year about aging well in a changing world, and that's the backdrop I've got here behind me today, I was able to publish after spending time talking and listening to lots of older people and a survey of over 5,000 older people, one of the biggest survey responses of this kind anywhere in Australia. I was able to come up with the 8 key attributes of aging well. And 2 of those are so central to employment and success in employment. The first one, not surprisingly, is our own attitude. Like Kay was saying, that we don't allow ourselves to feel that ageism is going to drive us, that we continue to have belief that we can reinvent ourselves, that we can continue to contribute. And a lot of that is in the quiet achievement. For example, people working in disability and in aged care, the relationship skills you'll have to understand how older people think, the importance of allowing them and empowering them to make as many life decisions as possible, building a relationship and a context with them, that will be recognized by the people that you work with. That'll be considered as valuable. So part of it's within our own attitude, not allowing ourselves to own this sense of ageism, that because we're older, we've got less to contribute. The other is just an acknowledgement. One of the next attributes is having a meaning and purpose in life. And it's very true that as you get older, and so many things impact us as an individual, isn't it? By this stage of our lives, we've inevitably experienced grief of some form. We've had loss, we've had changes in our community, changes in our family context. So we've got the whole building of life experiences that are sitting there behind us. But what is happening to us as often is we're rethinking about what gives us meaning and purpose in life. And staying close to that passion, I think, is a really important clue when we think about where we would like to work. Think about the type of organizations where you feel there's a connection. Some people will have a passion, for example, to work with a particular ethno-specific community. Some people have a passion to work with older people, maybe that have the challenges of dementia. Some people have a passion to start in an organization and aim to advance, to move up to another level. And so I think it's a really important part of the ingredients of a successful mature age worker is continuing that self-belief and that positive attitude, remembering our own passions are the things that give us meaning and purpose in life, and that we're not alone. You've got so many networks and friendships if you created through the course. Don't let those drop away. Stay connected to some of the people that you've learnt and studied with. Continue to share your stories, and then there'll be a sense that you're not on this alone. You're on a journey with lots of other people as well.
Can I just add something to what Gerard said? That your group will form it, and you can keep in touch more easily now with IT, but it's absolutely vital. The most, as I'm working in this area of elder abuse, people who are most vulnerable are those who are isolated. And the other thing I want to say to you is, when Gerard talked about you've got all those experiences, all your life experiences, when we're dealing with older people in aged care, for example, either in the home or aged care in aged care itself or respite, those people have got wonderful histories. They've been maybe mothers. They've been working in an industry we don't know anything about. It's about capturing something that captures their imagination. It might be music. And music, it seems to affect us. I'm a psychologist, across the whole of the brain. And when you see some people listening to music that comes from their earlier life, they come alive. There's something that triggers off, finding something in somebody. Some of those people will not have a visitor from 1 year to the next. You go into their room and you're the only person who's maybe talked to them, shown them some sort of care and affection and interest in them as a person. They're not just a body in a bed. They're somebody with a history, who's loved, who's done things, who's contributed to the community. And I think sometimes we lose sight the fact that that's our future selves. And I always say to people, the culture we set now is the culture we'll inherit, as we need care. So I think you can set an example and others will watch you and say, look what happens after Mary's been in to see Mrs. Such and Such. She's just a different person. That is a gold medal. You've made you've done something for that person that nobody else can do because they're not there to do it. Their relatives don't come and see them. That to me is the crying shame in aged care, that so many people don't get visitors. And you talk to other staff and you'll find they say, oh, she doesn't even get visitors at Christmas time. So you sometimes can be the light of that person's life.
That's so important to note, Kay. Thank you for addressing that. I also wanted to go back to the questions that are popping up in the chat box. I can see quite a few. One is from Helen Kermy, and this kind of goes on, Gerard, what you're saying around the self-belief that all the workers have themselves, but also how others view them. So what are your thoughts on creating a media campaign around dynamic and valuable older people? Because when you employ an older person, you're really winning gold in more ways than just a job, is what Helen says. I know, okay, that you've already done a lot of campaigning around, the value of older people. Is there anything else that we can do around the media campaign in this space?
I didn't quite catch the last word. Can you just repeat the question? Because I couldn't quite catch the last words. I lost a bit of connection.
That's okay. So the question is, do you have any thoughts on creating a media campaign on how dynamic and valuable older people are? Because when you employ an older person, you're really winning gold in more ways than just the job.
Media campaigns are quite expensive, and I have very limited resources, as does Gerard. And I think it's about calling out ageism when we see it in the press. I mean, there's some, and we all ought to be doing that. A letter to the editor saying, I found it offensive that somebody said X, Y, or Z about an older person. There's a lot of negativity in the press. I think, are we seeing out that I think 70% of us over 70 have already had at least one of our vaccinations, if not all of them. There's a positive. We're out there trying to protect other people. I just had a second jab last weekend. It's, I think we ought to be talking about, I don't know that media campaigns come and go. I think there's other ways in which you can do things like promoting best practice. That's why I'm pleased that the Women's Employment Agency's now trying to get data on companies that are employing older people, and we can highlight those. And, the ANZ Bank, I've just had a meeting with them. They're looking at employing older people because as migration drops off with COVID, they're looking for more employees. And suddenly they're saying, oh, we've got this pool of people out there who we could use, in doing simple filing tasks, in doing, in answering letters, in making phone calls or answering the phone. There are a lot of jobs that they see that they can now have older people working in. So I think it's about providing positive employment programs and recognising them and seeing the benefit of them. I just think that sometimes a media thing is short-lived. What you've got to do is do something that makes cultural changes, deep cultural changes with employers and with all of us in our own, because we've seen our parents and grandparents retiring at 55 and 60, and people aren't doing that now. The age of retirement's going up significantly, and I was surprised in the ABS to find that about 5% of the centenarians are still working part-time or full-time. Many of them in their own businesses, you know, boot makers and people doing very interesting jobs. And, you know, so some people are working through their whole lifetime. And I think promoting positive, if you see something on the internet about it, an older person doing something positive, then put that out there, you know, retweet it. But I think there's a limited value to media campaigns, but I think not having the resources to do that, we've got to use other methods.
If I could take on from that, I agree with Kay, but I do think that there is a significant impact that each of us can make as an individual. One of the things that does resonate in the community is when people share their stories. And Kay is absolutely right when we think about campaign, but if we sort of reframe it, how can we as individuals have an impact? Part of it's buying into conversations in the community. And so if we're sitting at home and we're listening to something on the radio that goes to the heart of these sorts of issues, being willing to pick up the phone, make a call and share your story. What a wonderful story every one of these graduates had. You started a course where it was face-to-face. You all pivoted to online learning. Many of you already have employment opportunities and you're going to, you know, pursue your interests over time. Those stories make an impact. Those stories resonate with people. So I think one of the things that we can do is that sort of that generosity and willingness of sharing our story. The other is thinking about workplaces. I think one of the things that all of us bring as we, you know, get a bit older and we've stored up a bit of. I was reading a book recently, and it talked about we build up our life experience bank. You know, sort of see it as a bank where you've got making these contributions, and I think we've all got that. We've all got this sort of bank of knowledge and skills that allow us to make a contribution in the workplace. You know, each of us will have an opportunity at some point maybe to contribute to a project or to suggest innovations or to give voice to some older people that have a particular interest. And exactly what Kay is saying, you get to know and understand them a bit, the things that drive them and interest them. You might be able to make some suggestions about meaningful things that could make an impact where change gradually occurs over time, because you become and you remain a very active participant in the workplace, you know. And I think that's what a lot of us bring as older workers. We bring this sort of knowledge and experience bank that plays out in many different ways, but willing to share our stories in public and with friends, I think, you know, and don't underestimate that. I think some of us think, oh, you know, lots of people do that. Well, guess what? Lots of people don't. You know, you're really in an exceptional territory where you've been willing to move into a course and get through and open up some life journeys. Lots of people are very interested in the stories, and that willingness to contribute at the workplace level. Those practical things really make a difference over time.
And can I just add, Gerard, that I'm just wondering whether, not to give you any more work, COTA, and RMIT and all of those who've been involved, and Good Shepherd. I mean, it's a wonderful partnership. But there are two places I think that you could do something for nothing. One is to talk to the program, This Working Life, and to say, would you like to do a session on our 35 graduates and where they are and why they did it? That's a program on the ABC. There's another program, and the Life Matters one that people listen to at 9 o'clock in the morning. What a wonderful thing to say to them. Have we got a story for you? Look at our graduates. You've had gold medals in the swimming pool. We've got gold medals in these people who are changing their life, turning around. So there's two places, and I can be in touch. If you get in touch with me, I'll give you the names of the producers. But they're two places, and radio is where older people listen. People driving to work in their car or not quite getting to their computers by 9 o'clock in the morning listen to Life Matters. But This Working Life, a lot of businesses listen to too. So you can start a media campaign that doesn't cost anything except time. So there's two I think that areas that really, especially with This Working Life, and both of them, get across the whole of Australia. So you can set an example to others of how you got this off the ground, and it's a great story. So I think and it'd be nice to follow people too, and to be able to say later on what they've done, because I think that for the coming, and there's other courses like Women Can, and there are a lot of courses now where people are doing promoting Certificate 3 in for disability and aged care, is to actually put that, for example, on our website Compass, and say, here's an example of what we did. Here are the partnerships. You could do it too. Because I think one of the things I find working at a national level, there's some fantastic things happening in Western Australia we don't hear about in Tasmania. Or there's something great happening in Queensland and we don't know about it. So Compass is a great place to put somebody doing a summary of what you've done, who the partners were, what the course was, course content. So I think making sure other people know about what you've done in the area so they repeat it, because this is a great initiative and people should know about it. And we've got a website on the education employment. If you had that there, we could get it onto that website, so that's where businesses look and think, oh, maybe we could do some training. Maybe we could set up a Certificate 3 in whatever. So
that's a great suggestion. A terrific suggestion, and we've been very lucky that a lot of people that we've worked with have been willing to, put their hand up and talk to media, which is really great. So it's really a combination, isn't it, of your personal responsibility to highlight what older people can do, and then working with wonderful people like yourself, Kay, with a lot of connections to help us to promote the work that we've done. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
I hope this gets into the COTA magazine too, the National COTA magazine, a little profile of it with a link to, so people can read about it. No, you've got to promote it.
We will, and I'm sure that Tina will be able to support me on that one too. I think we'll have time for one more question, so I'll just have a look and see. There were a few questions in the chat. One of them was from Gary. I think he's asking, is there an older people's employment agency? And is there benefits to having a specific employment agency for older people? Do you have more information around that? Otherwise, I will.
There are some. I have a problem as an independent statutory authority that I can't really promote businesses, but there are a number of businesses that do actually have websites for older people. In fact, my brother rang me just recently and said, well, I want to employ an older person who's got moderate tech skills, who's prepared to drive around New South Wales, well, when they could drive around New South Wales, and install stuff in schools. And, that was a challenge for me, because I could say to him, you need to go and have a look at this and this and this. But there's not a well-developed site for that. And I think maybe that would be appropriate. But there are a couple of websites that it would be easy for COTA to look at, but I'm not in that position to advertise them. So that's a challenge for me. And the other thing I just wanted to say, because this is the last question, for those of you who are not able to come to the graduation, I hope that you get as much enjoyment from watching this, but we're thrilled that you've got jobs, and that's the reason you can't be with us today. But I just want to remember them, because it's pretty hard when you've worked hard to get your Certificate 3 and everyone else is having a cup of tea and a glass of water, whatever we're doing while we're doing this, and they're out working. But how fantastic that some of them have got jobs, and that's to be celebrated too.
If I could join with those comments, Kay, and also, because I think we're drawing towards the end, just acknowledge the enormous contribution of so many other people behind the scenes. Success often has many masters, doesn't it? And so each person that's here has family and friends and connections around them. There's the people that volunteered and taught and lectured in the course, the partnership across so many organisations. So I'd just like to acknowledge firstly the enormous achievement of each individual, but that combined effort that has so much contribute to success. So thank you all the people behind the scenes who played such a key role in the success for each individual person that's here.
Terrific. Thanks, Gerard. And thank you both very much for sharing your point of view and your perspective. I know, looking at the chat, I can see that a lot of people have really valued your contribution, and I found it very insightful. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move on. And I'd like to welcome, talking about positive role models and daring to speak up. Gary and Sharon have both kindly offered to speak today about their experience in the Reach, Train and Employ program. And for those of you who don't know them, Sharon has been part of the first group that started their studies, and Gary has been part of the second group. So I'll just ask both of them, I will put a little spotlight on you and see if we can bring you both up on the screen so that everyone can see you. So we've got Sharon here, and I'll also see if I can find Gary, because there's so many screens, but I think now everyone can see you. And it's lovely that everyone still has their cameras on. I think it's really nice so that we can see how many people are still with us, which is good. All right, welcome Sharon and Gary. Thanks so much for daring to speak up today. Gary, I might start with yourself. Would you be willing to share a little bit of information on your experience in the Reach, Train and Employ program? You know, why you joined the program in the first place and what your experience was during the program?
Yeah, certainly. It goes back to 2016. I had a stroke, and whilst I was doing physiotherapy, and had come up in the local paper about Sons of the West, and I was talking to my physiotherapist about that, and he suggested that it was a good idea for me to get involved in it. And that ran for 3 years. It was limited to about 8 to 10 weeks per year, 2 hours a week, but it was all to do with men's health. And to me, that was very, very important at the time, as it is now. And the problem with that, though, was after 3 years, they didn't want to know you. And as a consequence, a few very smart people, not myself included, set up the Melton men's group. And that was in 2018. It would have only been about 11 or 12 of us at that time. And today there's probably about 85 to 90 members. And it's not 2 hours a week for 8 to 10 weeks, it's 2 hours a week period. And it is a very, very good opportunity for people to get together. And I think that gets back to what was brought up earlier about aged people. They love to communicate, they love to talk, and they love to share things. And I think that's what the Melton Men's Group is all about, because that's what their motto is, forging friendships. And as a consequence of that, there was I suppose, an introductory meeting at the library, which people from Melton Men's Group were invited to attend. And that was 12 to 18 months ago now. And there was Darren Cunningham from the Shire of Melton. There was Winnie, of course, from COTA. And there was a situation where it was an eye-opener, and Henry Gazier and myself, we elected to, go into it because it did interest us. And he actually went in the first one, and he was in COTA 1, and I went into COTA 2 because I was working at the time. And basically, in terms of getting into the Reach, Train, Employ project, all I can say is, before I say anything else, from the bottom of my heart, I believe all the COTA 2 people, I wish to thank everyone at RMIT, from Gwen all the way down, in particular all our teachers all the way through, and the support staff. Everyone is fantastic. Helen Kermy from Good Shepherd, and it's just a wonderful experience to be involved in. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to concentrate on the course, get through it. I didn't worry about employment too much till recently. I just wanted to make sure that I was focused on getting through. And I'm just pleased that I did get through. And all my colleagues, wonderful people. It was a fantastic opportunity because of Zoom. We were restricted to the actual, computer side of it, which at times I must admit was frustrating, being cut off halfway through a conversation, whatever. In terms of meeting up with everybody at the Sydenham hub, and then of course going into RMIT in the city and meeting people, face to face, it was just fantastic all round. And I believe that the opportunity that's been afforded to me and everybody in COTA 1 and COTA 2 is exceptional, and I do treasure it. Thank you.
Terrific, Gary. And what do you feel has been the biggest challenge for you in this program?
Well, I was like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. The last time I was at school was 1968 when I did year 12. So I've been working for 52 years. And, it's a situation where I believe that everybody, including myself, all the frustrations you have with in and out of Zoom meetings, getting put in rooms that only you and an example, Gail Vass and myself were sitting in a room, and got up to 9:35 and Gail said to me, geez, what's going on? We seem to be the only two here today. And I ended up ringing up Helen Kermey, and she found out that we're in the wrong Zoom meeting. But those sort of things do happen. And I think everybody, and this goes from RMIT, COTA, Helen, everyone, we all were challenged through this COVID-19. And I think it's a tribute to everyone that was involved in the course all the way through. We all had to adapt, yeah.
And you've done very, very well in adapting. Sharon, did you want to share a little bit of your experience, or why you've joined the program and what the experience was like for you, and how are you going now?
All right. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my experience. I've accepted this opportunity to talk about myself because as a child, I was a shy child, and I want to develop my more as a person. I'm sure you can hear my nervousness in my voice, so I apologise. I served in the military in the RAF, and I became a chef and working in various hospitality venues for years. And more recently, I had been working at a school supporting teachers in the classroom and sharing my skills teaching students to cook. However, my voluntary work for Melton Council, taking elderly to their appointments and then supporting a friend who had a stroke, made me realise I had a flair in contributing and supporting others in our community and a passion for personal care. The question to myself is why? Pardon me. Why have I taken this on this opportunity to change my career? Well, I love learning, and my answer is security. Job prospects after 50, and as a woman with a small amount of superannuation, I want to work for as long as I possibly can in a job that is easier on my body as I age. I'm concerned for people who are disadvantaged, and this could be me one day. I found out about the Reach Train Employ project through my friend's sister, and this course, A New Career, feels like a wonderful fit for me. My life experience adds to my contribution to the aged, and what a wonderful opportunity to gain a qualification that backs my security. The best thing about this program is the support to be educated. We all need guidance and support. I'm happy to announce I am employed and working in home care. I had challenges during the course. I struggled with online learning. The lack of face-to-face connection affected me. And so thank you, Helen Kermey, from Good Shepherd, for the emotional support. As I became aware, my perspective changed and I changed, and I'm thankful to learn more about myself. I really loved face-to-face learning at RMIT campus in the city, We had some good laughs, and Deborah Magnuson made it a fun environment to learn. It was just what we needed after the long lockdown in 2020. My experience on placement was valuable. My heart opened and I felt I was in the right place. I learnt there is hope and a conscious effort to support people in various and or complex needs. In reflection, empathy and compassion is within, and I was rewarded with gratitude and genuine connections from the residents and the participants. As I had completed my placement, I was saying my goodbyes and our participants started to tear up. I felt the warmth that I had given return tenfold. During this course through COVID gave me a focus. It was also an excuse not to do housework, an excuse not to exercise. I gained weight and lost muscle tone. And now my house is almost back to a reasonable state. I value the friends, the stories and our life experiences that added richness to our discussions. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn, gain skills, a qualification and a qualification. I also want to acknowledge the extra courses RMIT offered. I accepted the challenging NDIS course and Cultural Intelligence course. I benefited greatly doing these courses. I became more mindful. It opened me to new ideas, different perspectives, and I looked deep into my own beliefs and customs. My suggestion to anyone over 50 is to take any opportunity that is offered to you. This course built my confidence, and we have the life experience to share with others. We can learn from anyone at any time in life. Success is contribution, and we all contributed. Thank you, COTA, Good Shepherd and RMIT for the teamwork, contribution and success you achieved with us over 50s and anyone else who participated. All the best to each and everyone. Congratulations to all, and all means all. Thank you.
That's terrific sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. It is a lovely to hear from both of you. And I can see the chat is raving at the moment with lots of people really appreciating your support and appreciating the insights that you're giving. I might just ask one more question, but if there's any other questions that other people might have for Sharon and Gary, I'll keep them in the spotlight for now. How do you feel that the program has supported you in finding work? Have you looked for work for a long time before you joined the program, and how has this changed by now having a certificate 3? Has it made it easier or more difficult?
From my perspective, I think having a qualification definitely makes it easier to get support in finding work. The biggest thing I found with getting work before this is actually the minefield of actually going through applying for jobs online. In the past, when, you know, I suppose, I don't know whether anyone remembers the CES, and we'd go to the CES and look on the board and we'd have support and guidance and to see if we were suitable to go forward in that sort of field. We're trying to actually navigate yourself online with jobs is a lot harder, but having an education or a qualification actually makes it easier to actually pinpoint what area to actually focus on.
Gary, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to thank you personally for your assistance in setting up my concocted resume. You did an excellent job. In terms of, I suppose, my past, I've been very, very fortunate in life. I've always been poached rather than apply. And just recently, to go through the rigours of a lot of people out there that have been applying for jobs over years and having to go through the internet and all the ins and outs of it, I take my hat off to you. Because it is very confusing, particularly when you get things on the internet for jobs in Michigan and WA and so on. Even though you've got in there Melton, Victoria, You know, you often wonder sometimes how they do actually filter those things, but I must admit, I'm still looking. The biggest focus I had, like I mentioned earlier, was to get through this course. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. Now that I'm here, sure, my focus will be on getting work. And look, I'm confident something will crop up. I dearly would love something local. The only thing I've found is that, I don't know why, but it's sort of like learning to swim. You've got to do, you know, one lap before you're, you know, able to get in the pool. Everyone wants 6 months, 12 months, you know, paid employment before they'll take you on, which, you know, is weird. But over and beyond all that, this is all new territory to me. And I'm looking forward to being a pioneer in it, yeah.
And I'm sure you'll learn how to swim very quickly, Gary.
Yeah, an oxygen you know, bottle does help. In this case, it's you guys.
I'm not going anywhere, so I'll continue to support. And Sharon, there's a question there from Todd that might that you might be able to support with answering. So Todd is asking what you've learned from the course and how that's different from your work experience. So are there any significant changes of things that you've learned in the course that are actually quite different when you're actually at work as a support worker?
I think, anything I've learned, I actually think that possibly the listening part of it, we become really good listeners and we're really good support. And I think just being there for the person and knowing that the person actually knows we are there for them is so important. And I think the course probably didn't emphasize how much we would be really a listening ear and just being there for them, and how important it is just opening the door and saying hello. And yeah, I suppose that's the only thing I could think of that I've noticed that didn't get probably mentioned much in the course, that I personally take on board as really important.
Gary?
Yeah, to me, placement, and it's an old adage of mine. Look, when I was in finance for 13 years and worked my way up the corporate ladder from training right through estate management, it's a situation where, you know, with disability in particular, building rapport, and like Sharon was saying, that listening, I actually attended, strangely enough, people don't believe me, but it was an effective listening course where people tune in and tune out. And you've got a group of people standing around in a circle all talking different things, and you're able to talk to that person with everything going on around you. And I think that once you get into placement, it's on-the-job training. And that is absolute paramount, because the placement, particularly at disability, there were people there that you had to sort of let them warm up to you. There was one lady in particular, every morning I'd say, you know, not that she could see because I had a mask on, but good morning with a smile, and, you know, her name, and she never responded. And after about the 5th day, she started talking to me about her cats. So it's building rapport, I think, with people, and it is what they say, listening and taking on board what they say, and trying to build that bridge that connect people. Yeah.
It's absolutely right. I think you will both do a wonderful job in listening to people and working as a support worker, and actually working alongside the people that you work with and supporting them to whatever the needs they have. By the sounds of it, you're both excellent listeners, and you've done a great job in just sharing your inspiring stories. So thank you very much. I think we will leave it at that for now. So thank you. So maybe we can give them a little applause, a virtual applause. I think it's actually time now to award some certificates virtually now. Obviously, we can't do this in person, and so your actual certificate will be posted out to you, and they should be arriving soon. But what we will try to do is for everyone who's completed their certificate today to appear quite large on the screen. So I'm going to try to spotlight everyone who has received a certificate. So bear with me whilst I work through the logistics of this. And so if you can turn on your cameras, that would be lovely. And I know it's not everyone has an opportunity to speak today, but at least we will be able to see everyone. And once we've completed the awarding of the certificates, there will be a bit more time to talk informally. Tina, would you like to take the honours of awarding the certificates?
I will indeed. Thank you, Wenny. And I'll try and go. Now, I'm not going to be able to see if you're spotlighting people because I'll have the names in front of me. So if you can just maybe give me an indication of when you want me to go on to the next name. Hopefully we can coordinate.
Yes, I think it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to try.
See how we go. Okay.
There we are. First one up, Tina.
Okay, fantastic. Mary Aguilotis.
Hello, everyone.
And I can't find Kim. So we might go to
Kim Leanne Banks. Christine Ann Brooking.
Yes, she is up. And the next one.
Anne Kolesneski.
Oh, where are you, Anne? I'm going to find you.
Oh.
I'm here.
There you are.
Sharon Elizabeth Siebelin.
Hi, thank you.
Maria Falzoni.
There you are.
Hua Fang.
See if I can find him. Are you GAA by any chance?
No, I've seen David. I've seen David.
Oh, yeah. There you are.
On your dive.
Henry Gazier.
I don't think I can find Henry. Henry, if you're here, please shout out. No, next.
Vanessa Alice George.
Next, I think.
Susie Wati Ganawan.
Very good. Hi, Susie.
Hello.
Well done, Susie.
Thank you. Ruel Umbodo Ombre.
Anya Ruel.
Tadman Leong.
There you are.
Yay, Tadman.
Robin Lee McDowell.
I believe she's at work today.
Kylie Ann McIntosh.
Yay, Kylie.
Hello, thank you all.
Diane Jennifer Meehan.
She couldn't make it today.
Catalina Obian.
Catalina's not here, I don't think.
Ben Hiang Ong.
Anya Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi, Sheila.
I received my certificate.
Hi, Sheila.
Just to interrupt, Lena is here.
I'm
Catalina
here.
is here.
Lena is here.
Hi,
Yeah.
Sheila.
Hi.
We'll go back to Catalina.
Oh, there you go.
Lena's here.
Anya Lena.
Hey, Lena.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So have we got Ben?
Ben Young On, yes, that's Sheila. We've had
Oh, she's gone. Yep. Okay. Angela Rosemary Rencher.
she wasn't able to make it today.
Jennifer Rutter.
I don't think she's here today.
No, I don't think Jennifer's here.
Michael Rutter.
No.
No, Michael's not here today.
Patricia Carolina Sarker.
She had a very big event to organise at work today.
Claudio Santoro.
Congratulations, Claudio.
Go on you, Claudio.
Carol Julianne Targos.
Well done, Carol.
Well done, Carol.
Gary William Patrick Thompson.
Yay.
Gary, Gary.
Congratulations, Dad. Very proud of you.
Thanks, Maxter.
Suwani Tiapamkanit.
I'm not able to find her.
I don't believe Suwani's here.
Gail Cinderella Vass.
Go, Gail. Well done.
Well done,
Anya
Gail.
Gail.
Thanks, everyone.
Chok Ha Wong.
Yay,
you,
well done, Chokha.
Thank you.
We also have a certificate of participation, which is in progression for completion. And that goes to Andre Dolby.
Andre is here, but having
Thank
trouble
you.
with sound, I think.
No, I've got sound. I just haven't got vision.
Well
Good on
done,
you,
Andre.
Andre.
Well done, Andre.
Thanks, darlings. You've all been fantastic.
Well done, Andre.
Elfrida Schmidt.
Yay, Elfie.
Well done, Elfie.
And last but certainly not least is Lorenzo Trobiani.
I don't think he's here today.
Where is he?
No.
I haven't found him.
Beautiful flower, Elfie.
Yeah.
Terrific. Thanks, everyone. I think that's it for today. So for all of those of you who would like to stay around and catch up, I know that we're not able to mingle for coffee and tea today in person, but I will set up a breakout room which is called Chatterbox. So you can find the breakout room at the bottom of your screen once I set this up. And there you can either have a bit more of a private conversation or you can move back and forth to the main room and back to the Chatterbox as you like. So you'll get an invitation soon, and so you can either click join or join later. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you want to say something. And for those of you who are not able to stay around for a chat, thank you so much for everyone for coming today. And I look forward to touching base again when our paths cross in future. So thank you all to our speakers today. And for everyone who's made today possible. And of course, congratulations to all of our graduates. Thank you.
Can I just say thank you very much for having me, and Gerard, and to say it was lovely to see the graduates up on the screen. So that was wonderful. So thank you very much. And I wish you all the best. And I hope you'll help mentor the next group, number 3, if there's one. So thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks, Kate.
And I just wanted to thank Winnie on behalf of everybody for the amazing job she did making the graduation happen. It's not an easy thing by any means to run a meeting like this. And yeah, it was just wonderful, Winnie. Well done. Thank you so much on behalf of all of us, making sure we could celebrate. Thank you.
And a big shout out to Helen if she's there.
Yes.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Yes, thanks, Helen.
Helen.
Thank you.
Hey.
Helen.
Thank you.